Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic on Vedic astrology. And today we'll be talking about the planet Jupiter and people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter. And the reason why we need to know this as to what planet influences a person is because we are in constant relationship with people, either by default or by choice. Our brothers, sisters, siblings, parents, um, children, which come to us by default, and then certain relationships are by choice, like your girlfriend, your wife, which you choose, the kind of a job, and the boss, which you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we need to make great relationships with them for a smooth functioning of our life, a day-to-day lives. So how do we do that? We do that because God has given us a very powerful uh, tool, Vedic astrology. And in certain cases, we may have the birth chart, and in certain cases, we may not have the birth chart. So, based on the information which is given to us by the ancient scriptures, we can kind of figure out as to what this person is about, and then deal with him accordingly. And once we can deal with those relationships in a nice manner, in a perfect manner, then the relationships become smooth, and then life becomes pretty easy, so as to say. uh, just to give you an example, if you understand your wife or your girlfriend based on the birth chart, or even without the birth chart, based on the information given by Vedic astrology to us, how to determine as to what planet is influencing the wife, then you can deal with the wife or the girlfriend accordingly. In similar cases, it can be used for the other way around. If there's a woman, if he understands the birth chart of the husband, she can deal with him accordingly. Or any kind of relationship, so as to say, it doesn't have to be a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife. Your boss, your colleagues, your friends, anybody you're in constant relationship with. If you can understand what planet influences, then in certain cases you may have the birth chart, and in certain cases you may not have the birth chart. So um, and when you do not have the birth chart, it becomes a little tricky. And then that's the time when the ancient scriptures come to our rescue, our help, as to just by looking at a person and by the way he behaves and by his functioning, you'll be able to determine as to what planet influences that person. And then once you know this planet is influencing that person, you can deal with him accordingly and have a great relationship. So today we'll be talking about the planet Jupiter, or rather people who are influenced with the planet Jupiter. And how do we determine, if we do not have the birth chart, how do we determine if he's influenced by the planet Jupiter? um, so that we can have a great relationship with him based on what characteristics he have, how he thinks, how he behaves, and then we can go in line with how he behaves, so that there's a minimal conflict, so as to say. So about Jupiter, it has been described in the ancient scriptures as a big bellied body. So as soon as you come across a person whom you're in a relationship with, a big bellied body, you do not just jump to a conclusion that, hey, this person is dominated by Jupiter. Or when we say dominated or influenced by Jupiter, it could be several ways. His lagna, or the ascendant of the first house, may be influenced by Jupiter, or his moon sign, or the Rashi as we call it in generic terms, could be influenced by the planet Jupiter. Or Jupiter may be aspecting either the Rashi or the ascendant, or Jupiter is the lord of the nakshatra where his moon is placed, so as to say, or the lord of the nakshatra which falls in his ascendant. So there are different ways how you can kind of say that, yes, this person is influenced by the planet Jupiter, purely, strictly in terms of looking at his birth chart. But like I said, you may not have the birth chart. So how does Jupiter look like? That's been very clearly described in the ancient scriptures. He is a big bellied body. So like I said, don't jump to a conclusion, but then something should come to your mind that, okay, this person may be influenced by the planet Jupiter, if he has a big bellied body, because that's what's been described in the ancient scriptures. So you come to a little, or you come closer to an analysis, so that you can deal with him accordingly. His color is yellow. So people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter, like I said, it could be several ways: moon sign, nakshatra, ascendant, aspects, placement on the moon sign or the ascendant. So his color is described as yellow. So obviously, you will not see a yellow colored person. But yes, there's a slight hue, like we discussed in the Mercury video, that they have a slight greenish hue, or a greenish aura. Similarly, people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter have a yellowish aura. And once you start to practice, you'll be able to figure out as to how you can read auras, or maybe get a feel of auras, or maybe through your intuition. Your intuition is going to get sharper and sharper if you put your mind and brain and then practice on this. So Jupiter, big bellied body, and color is yellow, meaning he has a aura, a yellowish aura. And he is a Kapha temperament. Now Kapha is a temperament, and people do not know about Kapha, Vata, and Pitta. Kapha is the water element, Pitta is the fire element, and Vata is the air element. These are the three elements which influence a person. And then, based on these temperaments, or these elements which influence a person, his body functions accordingly. So Ayurveda, which is a science of medicine as per the Eastern way of life, actually takes into consideration a lot of these three elements, and then analyzes a person's body and even diseases through these elements. But then, if you want to know a little more in detail, please refer to my earlier video, which describes these three elements: Kapha, Vata, and Pitta. Okay, which is water, air, and fire. Okay, so Jupiter has been described as a Kapha element, like more like water, like influenced by water. And he's full of virtues, he's full of goodness, because he's a very pure sattvic planet. Again, people who do not know what sattvic is, what sattva element is, please refer to my earlier videos, which has described three kinds of elements, or three kind of natures rather, which one is a sattvic nature, the other is a rajasic nature, or rajasic as you can call it as well, and the third one is the tamasic nature, which is complete ignorance. So sattvic is a nature which is related, or which is synonymous to the nature or behavior similar to the gods. Okay, and then tamasic is more the demonic like, and the rajasic is more, I would say human like, people who are into luxuries and creating wealth, so on and so forth. Again, if you want to go into more details, refer to my earlier video. So Jupiter is more of the sattvic nature, okay, because of his virtues. And sattvic also means higher intelligence, not intelligence rather, but knowledge. There's a difference between intelligence and knowledge. Knowledge is the higher, superior knowledge, which only the sattva guna, or the sattvic people, do have. He has been given some kind of a blessing by the gods, that he has aptitude for all kinds of sciences. So he understands pretty much, if a person is influenced by Jupiter, or if Jupiter is well placed in his birth chart, you will see normally that, whichever way he goes, he just picks it up like that, because of his guna, which is the quality, which is the sattvic guna, or the quality, so as to say. So, if he wants to go into medicine or teaching or anything which he kind of wants to do, he understands that pretty quickly, because, like I said, it's just the opposite of ignorance. Higher knowledge, higher intelligence, more knowledge than intelligence, like I said. Eyes, if you look at his eyes, they are brownish. Okay, so we've been discussing about eyes when we discussed about earlier other planets, like in the case of sun, people who are influenced by sun, their eyes are described in the ancient scriptures. And by the way, all my videos are a reference to the ancient scriptures, so it's not some kind of an imagination of a recent day astrologer. So the ancient scriptures have described the eyes of the sun as wine-like, okay, as bright as wine. And we refer to my earlier video when we discussed the planet sun. Or moon has been described as having eyes which are very fine eyes. Or Mars, the planet Mars, has been described as having fierce eyes. So one is the body. Then I've seen noticed that eyes are a very easy way to pick up what planet this person may be influenced with. You very clearly, you'll see people influenced by Mars will have fierce looking eyes because he's a Kshatriya, he's a warrior, he's a fighter. Jupiter is not. Jupiter is more of, a learned, knowledgeable, sattvic, Brahman kind person. So his eyes are also going to reflect that. And his eyes have been described as brown, okay, brownish eyes. Now that doesn't mean that if a person has brownish eyes you'll just jump to a conclusion that hey, he's influenced by Jupiter. No, all these factors have to be taken into consideration. And he's a pure person, generally described as, all the pure qualities, in his food habits, the way he worships, the way he behaves at work, in his profession. There's a lot of purity in him. Cleanliness, not just physical cleanliness, but purity, which means, well, he's going to be devoted to his work. He'll do it with a lot of integrity, and he'll be honest. So all these good qualities, he's endowed with all these good qualities, so as to say. Even his hair are not black, jet black. They have a brownish black color. It's not very deep black as you would see, in certain cases. Like Saturn, you'll see people who are influenced by Saturn, you'll see, their hair are very, very black, blackish. Jupiter hair is, of course, I mean, young people definitely will have black hair, but with a brownish kind of a tinge. Okay, so that's another way of kind of determining his purity, his knowledge, his virtues, his yellow aura, his big bellied body, his eyes and hair being brown, so on and so forth. Okay, and very, very intelligent. And there's another thing which has been described in the ancient scriptures about people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter, and that is he has some marks of royalty. Now, royalty has been associated directly with the planet Sun and sometimes Moon as well, not with Jupiter, but here it's been described in the ancient scriptures that, people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter may have some marks of royalty uh, in them as well. I would say, more, it's more towards, I mean, royalty is directly connected with the planet Sun, but then Jupiter also can give you royalty, some kind of a power. Okay, of course Sun is about power, but Jupiter is about power as well, because he gets or gains his power or through his knowledge, higher knowledge. So many of the, you know spiritual gurus and people who are endowed with knowledge, professors, learned people, have the power of that knowledge, which you will see in Jupiter people. Okay, so that's one way of looking. And then once you determine as to this person is influenced by Jupiter, then you can deal with him accordingly. You will not deal with him as you would be dealing with, say, for example, a Mars person. With Mars, even in a discussion, Mars is going to enjoy, talking about wars, about weapons, about, anything to do with a lot of energy and dynamism, fast car racing, or anything which it involves a lot of energy, horse riding, shooting, archery. You cannot talk about this with Jupiter. You talk about the Vedas with Jupiter, and people who are not interested in Vedas, then you talk about any other area of intelligence. It doesn't have to be just the Vedas. Knowledge about the globe, knowledge about the environment, knowledge about different kind of sciences, knowledge about books, knowledge about writers, all kinds of uh, sciences which Jupiter rules over. And then you'll understand, because if he's also enjoying that kind of a discussion, then he's more of a Jupiter dominated people. And if you can get a hold of his birth chart, that's nothing like it, and then you can deal with him accordingly. Like for example, Moon, with people who are influenced or dominated by Moon, talk to them about poetry, about goodness, virtues, enjoyment, happiness. About Sun, it's about royalty. About Mercury, it's about humor. So these are different characteristics, and then you deal with that person accordingly, so that he feels comfortable in your company, he enjoys your company, and he can be a great friend to you, or any kind of a relationship. So how to determine as to when Jupiter gets more powerful? Jupiter is very, very powerful when it is in the zodiac sign of Meena or Pisces, as it's called. Meena is the Sanskrit word. So when it's in Pisces, it's in its own sign, it becomes very powerful. So if you have a hold of his birth chart, you know that it's in Pisces. You know that this person is has a strong Jupiter. Deal with him accordingly. It also gets very strong in Cancer because it gets exalted in Cancer. So his qualities come out more strongly. It gets strong in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius as well. When Sagittarius is more like a battlefield, and Pisces is more like a, more like a rishi or a saint or a sage. So there's a different flavor to these two zodiac signs, Pisces and Sagittarius, when you compare it as far as Jupiter is concerned, because Jupiter can be a warrior too, because it rules over the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, which is a battleground. But then a very, very, I would say, idealistic warrior, very ethical warrior. Okay, somebody like a Arjuna. Most of the times, Arjuna may have done some unethical things as well. I wouldn't want to discuss on that today, but yes, mostly, people like Yudhishthir, people like Arjuna, that's more associated with the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. Okay, so Jupiter gets powerful in Sagittarius, gets powerful in Pisces, and also in Scorpio, because the ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and Jupiter and Mars are very friendly. And of course, it gets exalted and very strong in the zodiac sign of Cancer as well. So how does it help us? It helps us because if you know that a person is influenced by the planet Jupiter, and you see, well, today is a Thursday because it gets strong on a Thursday as well. And in the transits, in the gochara, as it's called in Sanskrit, in case you realize that in the transits, Jupiter is in Pisces or Jupiter is in these other zodiac signs which I've discussed, like Cancer, Sagittarius, or Scorpio, then you know Jupiter is in its full form, and that person's characteristics whom you are dealing with, who's influenced by Jupiter, will come out more strongly. Okay, and then you can deal with him accordingly because he'll be in his full form. Or Jupiter gets in its strong in its own Varga charts as well. Could be a Navansha or other divisional charts. Uh, it could get very strong if in a Navansha Jupiter is sitting in its own zodiac sign of Pisces, and or Sagittarius becomes very strong. So look at the Varga charts as well. Of course, this is a situation when you have the birth charts. Okay, in the middle of the sign, it's very strong. So even in transits, you see when it's transiting in the middle of the sign, Jupiter's very powerful. Also, it can get strong in the zodiac sign of Aquarius at times as well. Okay. Now, another thing which has been described in Jupiter, and this is not related, of course, to relationships here, but if you see a birth chart whose Jupiter is in the Lagna, or the fourth house, or the 10th house, then he will be wealthy. That's another thing which you can see whose birth charts you have. Okay, but like I said, we've been discussing about, in case you do not have a hold of birth or that person's birth chart, and you have somehow come to the conclusion that he's influenced by Jupiter, how to deal with that person. But this was another interesting thing which you'll find in the birth charts of people whose Jupiter is either in the ascendant or in the fourth house or in the 10th house. Generally, they'll be wealthy people, regardless of the zodiac sign they are placed. They will be wealthy. But then again, how much wealth? Again, you have to see what zodiac sign, of course. And then, of course, other factors have to be taken into consideration, like, what are the aspects, conjunctions, strengths, so on and so forth. But generally, I'm just telling you. So basically, we were talking about as to how to figure out if a person is influenced by a particular planet. And we discussed about Jupiter today and how to deal with him. And what are the times when Jupiter is more powerful, when that person is in his full form, and then you don't mess with him at that time, because he'll come across in his true colors in those times when he's influenced by Jupiter, and also in transit Jupiter is strong. So then if you go with the flow, go with what his energies are, then you will not make a mistake and make great friends and great relationships with that person. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on how to deal with people who are influenced by the planet Jupiter. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below. And I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.